Visit OnFireTV.com for live top stories, breaking news, and original shows.
Welcome back. You may Dominic K in here, of course, the DominiCShow.com, OnFire-TV.com. A lot of things going on, and a lot of things that we need to get into. Before I go to my special guest today, the Flywire and TFP Entertainment presents the Flywire's 15th annual White Tie Affair. This is Baltimore's biggest and most celebrated event. It happens Sunday, July the 24th from 5 to 10 p.m. at Hammerjacks. This is an outdoor venue, 1300 Russell Street in downtown Baltimore. After a 2-year wait, the party of the year returns with another exceptional, fun, and elegant red carpet cocktail reception. Music by DJ Kibi, DJ Tons, and Super DJ Big L. This is a white party, so the attire is fly. It is all white. Venue's outdoors, so ladies, no high heels. Sandals, wedges, sneakers, and flats are highly recommended. Tickets on sale right now, hammerjacks.com. So the primary is here, Maryland's primary upon us. I'm saying here, but it's Tuesday. So the thing that's interesting to me about this is that many folks, including myself, have not decided who they are voting for in many of these races. And I am pleased to have one of the candidates, one of the gubernatorial candidates, to join us today. Please welcome Attorney Doug Gansler.
Thanks for having me. I'm hopeful to help you with that decision during our conversation.
Good. Absolutely. And so in your journeys, have you seen that folks are still open to making a decision?
Yeah, it's about 68% of folks are undecided, and the turnout has been abysmal at the early voting sites, which ends tomorrow. Though a lot of people are voting by mail, which is a good thing. We want to expand access to voting, and doing it by mail is a good opportunity for people. But yeah, people don't know what's going on. And the problem is whoever wins the primary really, really, really matters. I mean, Baltimore is very much on the ballot for the primary. I'm the only candidate of the Democrats that the polls show can beat Kelly Schultz in the general election. I mean, in fact, the Goucher College did a poll which showed that she would beat the Tom Perez's, Wes Moore's, John King's, Francho of the world, 55% to 38% here in Maryland this year, which is just crazy because Baltimore, look, a lot of people listening to the show probably think Larry Hogan's done a good job, and he's done a good job in a lot of areas. But one of the places he has not done a good job on is Baltimore, because during his watch, almost 3,000 people have died in the city. And obviously there's a lot of other issues there. People are leaving, businesses are closing, people feel unsafe. And so we need to make sure we have somebody as governor who has a background in bringing crime down and lifting justice up. And I would submit that would be me and my Lieutenant Governor, Candace Hollingsworth.
Yes. I am not someone who has ever been on the Larry Hogan fan club for a lot of reasons. And so I'm definitely not interested in another term of Governor Hogan, which is what we would get with Kelly Schultz.
Yeah.
Essentially same policies. She's coming out of his administration, and
it's a big Republican year. This is going to be the biggest Republican year of our lives. And she's a she, and she's, she'll outperform Hogan this year. The question is whether Democrat can win or not.
Yeah, and so I guess that you are of the mindset that Schultz beats Cox.
I do, and I'll tell you, Dominic K, what I don't like. I mean, so the Republican Governors Association did a poll, and they showed that I was the only Democrat that can beat Kelly Schultz, but not even necessarily. I mean, that would even be close. So what they just did, the Democratic governors, mind you, the Democrats who called Donald Trump the devil incarnate because he is, just gave $1.3 million to Cox to try and beat her to give a better chance for whoever the Democratic nominee is. I don't like the optics of it. It doesn't work. And it's a little bit hypocritical of the Democratic Party. We should just put up, I mean, look, I was the Attorney General for 8 years. I was the state's attorney for 8 years. I was federal prosecutor under Eric Holder for 6 years. You know, I've done this. I was the head of the NAACP Criminal Justice Committee back in 1989. I've been working on criminal justice issues and driving down crime. And that's what Baltimore needs right now, among other things. But that's a big issue.
Yeah, it is a big issue. And this is something that we've seen the Democratic Party do around the country. And I've seen them do it in Pennsylvania, where they are trying to put support behind the most radical person. And I mean, they're not, I guess they rather that matchup because they think that far right matchup is better for them than, say, a moderate Republican. But you know, this can backfire. This could easily backfire.
For sure, and it has around the country.
Yeah. So as far as you, what made you want to run for governor of Maryland?
You know, I believe in public service. I was in government for 23 years. I'm obviously by far the most experienced candidate in this race. And, you know, look, I lost the last time. I ran in 2014. I was the sitting Attorney General of Maryland. I ran against the Lieutenant Governor, Anthony Brown, and lost in the primary. And then, you know, as a direct result, we had a Republican governor for 8 years. I'm hopeful that the party does not commit political suicide and do the same trick again. But, you know, look, during COVID, like you and many others, I just sort of did a lot of in introspection, reflection, thought about who I am, what drives me. What drives me is helping people, whether it was when I was president of all the attorneys general in the country and I did the national mortgage foreclosure settlement and got $2 billion into Maryland to help people to fight the big banks and keep people in their homes and away from being foreclosed upon. I still have people come up to me every day and thank me for that. You know, and so there's a lot of things that give me, that's sort of my currency, trying to help. And the situation in Baltimore is really driving me, frankly, in this race to get in there and help work with the people of the city of Baltimore who, there's so many of them, you're one of them, who love the city and understand and really see the promise that it can have. And it's just being held back by lack of leadership at the state level, the city level. And we need to turn that around. And I can't wait to roll up my sleeves and do it.
Yeah, that is true. A lot of things need to be turned around in the city as well as the state. So as far as the governor, what do you think is the number one job of the governor?
Keeping the citizens safe. Whether it's making sure your children can go to school in a safe environment, both getting to school and getting back from school, in addition to being at school. And so, you know, as I mentioned, look, I put the first drug court in Maryland's history because we put way too many people in jail, and we ought to have ways to keep them out of jail, and drug court does that. I put the first domestic violence dockets in Maryland's history. I started the first civil rights department in Maryland's history. Started the first family justice center. So these are kinds of things we need to have on a statewide basis to really to make sure we protect our citizens. And then, you know, sort of an offshoot of that right now, which we're seeing, and it's actually been helping me. I knock on doors every day. I don't take anything for granted. And is what the Supreme Court is doing. And the Supreme Court, in my view, is making people less safe. And they're doing it by taking away people's rights. For example, the right to an abortion, which will disproportionately affect underserved folks and people of color who will not be able to, you know, go to some other state, and people are gonna die. And they're putting more guns on the streets by getting rid of the concealed carry. So we need to make sure that we have somebody, a Democrat with democratic values, that can win the general election, to make sure we have a brick wall against any whittling away at abortion rights, and to keep guns off the streets. And look, we put too many people in jail. I get that. But people who are felons that are carrying guns and using them in crimes of violence, nobody's getting killed in Caves Valley tonight. Not many in Roland Park or Guilford, but, you know, in communities of color and underserved communities, people will. and we need to make sure that we're working to make sure that we understand that those folks should be safe also.
Absolutely. So let's unpack crime a little bit. So that is something that Baltimore City has been dealing with for before I was born. So what, in your opinion, would you be able to do to help address crime and poverty? Because I believe that the two are related in Baltimore City and in other parts of Maryland.
Yeah, and so there's no one else in the race on either side that has any background whatsoever in criminal justice at all. Maybe some have gotten a parking ticket. I don't know, but so understanding where I come from, understanding how it's supposed to work is critically important. I remember, I was with Eric Holder in D.C. in the 90s, and they were saying, no, we can never fix this. This can't get fixed. Oh, drive-by shootings, crack cocaine. You remember back in the day. And you can't get an apartment there now because it's too damn expensive. And Baltimore is a better city. It's got more promise and more potential. So having someone who understands the difference between a conviction and an indictment is a start. And then having the experience in government, like I was Attorney General for 8 years, State Attorney for 8 years, Federal Prosecutor for 6 years. Not just because I've been sitting around, but I understand the levers of government work to make things happen. So specifics, we're going to put 1,000 new police officers in the city. They're going to be trained de-escalation techniques. We're going to have community prosecution, which is like community policing. So they work with the community police to help bridge that trust where, Pigtown has its own prosecutors, Fells Point has its own prosecutors. Every section of Baltimore has its own prosecutors working with the community police to help bridge that lack of trust between the community and law enforcement that serves them. We're going to have 10,000 new lights in the city. Crime happens in darkness, and we're going to light up the city and make sure that it's a bright, vibrant place where people want to go. We're going to put a drug court in the city so we keep people out of jail and get them help and the services they need. We're going to put a domestic violence court in the city. We're going to make sure first responders have access to licensed mental health professionals, which they need. We're going to laser target guns and gun crimes and gun cases. We're going to actually do something called papering, which is what we did at the U.S. Attorney's Office, where the police come to the prosecutor before they go to the judge. So the prosecutor can determine, is that a case that's supposed to be in the system? Is that going to clog the system? And also, it has the prosecutor at the very beginning working with the police to identify, evidence that needs to be gathered, people that need to be talked to, because in Baltimore City, right now, you're more likely to get away with murder than you're not. They have a clearance rate of 41%. That's outrageous. When I was State's Attorney in Montgomery County, the most diverse county and jurisdiction in the state, 1.1 million people, we had 13 murders a year, not a weekend, a year. And so that's where we ought to go to get to in Baltimore.
So what would you say to folks that are apprehensive about your approach of more police? Well,
they shouldn't be, because they should be recognize that crime disproportionately impacts communities of color and underserved communities, and that my primary focus has always been lifting justice up. So, for example, when I was State's Attorney, every time a police officer shot his or her gun, I put that right in the grand jury. I didn't whitewash it. I said, let the 23 people in the community make that decision, whether that was a justified shooting or not. And so I believe that people deserve to be safe if they don't have money. And I think that, and a lot of it goes to training, diversity, community prosecution. One of the components of that is prosecutors go to the roll calls for the police, work with them on training and issues on what the law is and what the law shouldn't be, and build back that respect for police officers that we used to have. Put SROs in schools so we stop pipelining kids from high schools into the juvenile justice system, deal with issues on the school with parents, students, the administrators, and the teachers. So there's a lot that can be done here. Police aren't the problem, crime's the problem, and we need to help solve that.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about some of the repeat violent offenders. And so do you believe that is, getting a handle on repeat violent offenders is part of the solution? Is that what you would focus on?
Yes, and particularly gun crime. So you take on the federal side, and I prosecuted. I put in the first RICO statute on the state level, so we can go after gangs on the state level. We don't have an equivalent on the state level that they do on the federal level, which is actually utilize cases where a convicted felon who has a gun and uses that in a crime of violence gets a mandatory 5 years in jail. We can differ as to whether, I don't think people that, you know, commit drug crimes and all that, I think they ought to get help for their addiction. Nobody wants to be addicted to drugs. They want to be helped. But if you are shooting somebody with a gun and you already been convicted and you have a felony, you ought to go to jail and be off the streets until you cool down a little bit. And so, yeah, that's the kind of thing that we're definitely going to focus on. Because businesses are moving out. People are moving out. I see people. I walked out. I mean, I'm a Baltimore guy. I got my Orioles tie on because it's been a long time since I could wear this.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
My kids are 28, 25. I've been having a hard time explaining that. No, man, they used to be really good. But I was a season ticket holder of the Sheriff starting in 1989. I've worked there every day when I was Attorney General for 8 years. I love that city. And, it's sad to see it emptying out because nobody's keeping people safe there.
Yeah, safety is important. Obviously, something in the news as of recent would be the tragedy that happened near the Inner Harbor with squeegee kids. As far as the squeegee, I'll say kids, workers. What are your thoughts on these individuals and what can be done to make things more harmonious?
Well, I mean, that's a little bit goes to the question you asked before about poverty. I mean, nobody wants to be addicted to drugs. Nobody wants to be a squeegee kid. They didn't grow up thinking that I want to do that.
Right.
And so we need to make sure that everybody has access to opportunity, whether it's public health, housing, education, which is just abysmal in Baltimore City, and a job. And the job shouldn't be being a squeegee kid. And frankly, nobody wants to drive into Baltimore and get attacked by the squeegee kids either. And so it's a problem on both sides. But we need to provide opportunities for those. We both sort of hesitated kids. Some of them are young adults.
Right.
But we need to make sure they have a job and say, hey, look, here's a job. The unemployment is very low. And if they're going to work hard enough to get up and go out there and be a squeegee person, they should be able to get a job and actually start to build wealth. And I think that's where we ought to be focused, not having sort of attacking them for their situation and their plight. I mean, I started a lacrosse league up there. I play lacrosse. I played lacrosse my whole life. Baltimore City was left out. It's the state sport of Maryland. When Gilman plays St. Paul's, there's 20, 30, 40 kids are going to go play college lacrosse on scholarship, a lot of them. And there was no opportunity in Baltimore. So I started this league about 12, 13 years ago called Charm City. We play over in Carroll Park on Saturday mornings. We went over to Patterson Park for a little while as well. And, you see these kids, they're bright, happy, wonderful, nice kids. And their circumstances sometimes make it so that they're not going to be able to, if they live long enough to graduate from high school, they're likely not to be able to read at an 8th grade level. And then you're trying to figure out why they're out there being a squeegee kid. And it's because we don't give them opportunities. We don't provide them with that education because that's empowerment. And that's what we need to do. We need to focus on that and not sort of where they are right now, which is doing something they definitely don't want to do. And the people on the cards don't want it to be up to them. So we need to provide them an opportunity to get out of that.
All right. So let's talk about that. As far as education, as far as the investment, what specifically would you do to help improve education in Maryland?
Well, we have a lot of money, and we're going to have more money. I was the first candidate to call for legalization of cannabis because it's a way of putting Black people in jail, frankly, and it's it's legalized everywhere else, and it'll be legalized here. And when we do, we ought to make sure we have minority businesses as part of that, because we need to build wealth for the African American community, not just minimum wage jobs. That said, that'll bring in some more money. So I think we ought to have universal, and I've talked about this for 10 years, universal pre-K, because the gap between students that show up in kindergarten and that have not had education up to that point, and those that have, it never gets breached. And so we need to make sure that we have universal pre-K and frankly universal childcare as well, and give incentives to private companies to provide childcare so women, mostly not just women, but mostly women, can go to work. 47% of women lost their jobs, had to change jobs during COVID because of childcare issues.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. I think we need to make sure that we have vocational opportunities in our schools. Not everybody wants to, go to Yale or Harvard. Some people want to be a plumber, which pays six figures, and be an HVAC person or what have you. And that's great. We ought to make sure that they're licensed to do so before they get out of school. We need to make sure, it's a little offbeat, but I've always been a big advocate about returning citizens and making sure that returning citizens are able to get certifications while they're locked up, whether it's as an auto mechanic, culinary arts, so that when they come out, they can go get a job from a company that gets a tax break for hiring them, and you give them an opportunity not to go back, to succeed. So that's part of it. And, having school resource officers in school so kids are safe when they're being educated, so they're not worried about getting killed, stabbed, or bullied while they're at school. Doing more on online safety is certainly something that can be done, and working with the tech companies, not against them, but with them, to make sure that kids are being are safe online as well. So there's an enormous amount we can do. Work with teachers, get teachers paid better. This is one state, people always say, oh, we have bad education. And obviously, the education has fallen during the Republican administration.
Yeah.
We used to have number one schools, now we don't. But we've already done the work. There's something called the Blueprint, the Kerwin report that you know about. And we need to, if we don't have a Democrat governor, that means if I don't win the primary, that's going in the trash. And so that's going to really set us back a generation as well.
Yeah. So I hear you. And what are your thoughts on the red line?
When Governor Hogan canceled the red line, I thought that was not only sort of a cancellation of a transportation system, but a sledgehammer to the people in Baltimore. You got a third of people in Baltimore City that don't own cars. And then you're talking about crime, you're talking about squeegee boys, and if you can't get to work, how that's not on you. They had a red line, they had the money. It was budgeted. We already sunk a ton of money into it.
Right.
So I want to see the red line, and we ought to have more of a comprehensive transportation system for Baltimore in general. So like other big boy cities, it's crazy.
So restoring the red line is part of your plan?
Yeah, the red line and getting the purple line up and running down for folks in Prince George's. We got to get to Montgomery back and forth, and that's already there, but it's got years of delays and billions in overcost that we need to get that moving. We need to put the metro over the Wilson Bridge. That's going from Virginia into Maryland, which it was built for. So there's mass transit is part of the deal. And I'm an environmentalist. I believe, we got to work on environmental justice issues. We got to make sure, the electric vehicles are coming. We got to make sure we have charging stations, not where just where the rich people live, but where the less rich people live, and to make sure that people that don't have the money for the electricity to charge them overnight get subsidized to do so that we get rid of our dependence on fossil fuels. And because look, this is an area that the private sector is driving. Literally and figuratively, you watch the Super Bowl this year, there was 19 ads for electric vehicles. They're doing this. They're
here. It's not even coming. They're here. Yeah.
They're here. When you walk out of that studio and look around, you're not going to see any charging stations. We're not ready for that. And so we need to be ready for that.
Right. One of the many issues that I've had with Governor Hogan, his relationship with the mayors of Baltimore City, who have been women, Black women. Your running mate is a Black woman. What former mayor as well. What is your relationship with City Hall in Baltimore?
Well, I'm glad you brought her up. By the way, she's just by way of reference. Yes, she will be the first Black woman lieutenant governor in Maryland's history, but that's a footnote, because she'll be the best lieutenant governor in Maryland's history. She's crazy smart, crazy passionate. She was on the Hyattsville Council for 4 years, but then she was the mayor for 6 years. Going to your mayor's question, she left being the mayor when George Floyd was murdered, and she started an organization called Our Black Party, which is a national organization that juxtaposes Black policy with Black politics. And I was blessed to have her with me as a partner in this ordeal. And we are we're the only ticket where we both have executive experience. But because she's a mayor, she gets it. So she's gonna, we're gonna be the governor for the mayors and the in the municipalities and the county executives, because that's where the rubber hits the road. So I'm looking forward to the relationship that we'll have with the mayors in Baltimore and elsewhere, but particularly Baltimore, because fighting among politicians is not a good thing. And clearly we will have this isn't rhetoric, we will have a Republican governor if Candace and I don't win the primary. And that Republican governor is going to do the same thing that the last Republican governor did, which says, people in Baltimore City didn't vote for me, so I'm not going to take care of them.
Right.
And we can't have that. And she is going to be with me in the city, and she'll figure out why it's called Charm City real quick.
So I've heard you say that before, and why are you so concerned that the matchup with you and the Republican candidate is the best chance for Democrats?
Well, man, I saw Governor Hogan when I lost Anthony Brown in the primary. He said, I saw him 3 weeks later at a picnic down in Southern Maryland. He said, "Hey, sorry you lost. A lot of people I know were supporting you, but it's great for me." I said, "Why is that?" And he said, "We polled a week before the primary. We had you beating us by 22 points and us beating Anthony Brown by 3. And I think it went on by winning by 9. That was a Democratic year. The last election, we had Ben Jealous and people like Peter Franchot did not endorse him, and we had all kinds of issues. So Ben Jealous lost by the most of any Democratic candidate ever in the history of Maryland, again, in a Democratic year. Now we're in the most Republican year of our lives. And look, I ran Barack Obama's campaign with Elijah Cummings. I started the first civil rights department. I'm very as progressive as we could get, but because of my job and where I'm from and, other things, let's just say that they're going to think I'm a moderate Democrat, which is just fine. Even in the Gansler poll, which has the moderate Republican beating the progressive Democrat 55% to 38%, even that poll has the moderate Republican beating the moderate Democrat by 5%. But I think we can overcome that because Maryland has this 2-to-1 advantage of Democrats and Republicans. And because of my experience, name recognition, and the things I've done while I was Attorney General and while I was state's attorney, I think we could beat her. It'll be a tough race. I mean, I'm not saying we will beat her. I'm just saying we have the best shot of beating her. And I think we actually would, because, we have a coalition of folks that are behind us that I've known and worked with, and including up in Baltimore City for decades. And so that's why.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely concerned for the state and for the nation. As far as Donald Trump, have you been following the January 6th hearings?
I have. Jamie Raskin is one of my closest friends. In fact, when I was state's attorney, he was my campaign chairman. We go back, decades, and so we walk our dogs together and we talk all the time. And there might be smarter people out there, but I haven't met them. And he's done a phenomenal job.
Yeah, he's very smart.
Both on this and the previous stuff. So I've been following a little bit. I am in the middle of an election, so I'm doing early vote, knocking on doors. I work hard. I'm not knocking on doors every day and meeting people, but I watched a lot of it. And, those people that crawled out from under that rock, and started climbing up the walls and doing what they did, they ought to be held accountable. And thankfully they are. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds have been prosecuted, and that's treason, and that shouldn't happen in this country. And I just would like to see Donald Trump go away.
Yeah, I would like to see that as well. Would you have sent the National Guard
to the Capitol?
Yeah.
I mean, our country was under attack.
Yeah.
I wouldn't send the National Guard, by the way, into Baltimore for the crime problem. But
that was my next question.
Well, because I think that's a systematic problem, and Rashawn Baker, who is a candidate he'll be on the ballot, is wonderful. He's actually the other person running that was qualified to be governor. Some of these cats that are shaving one morning and look in the mirror and they see a governor in the mirror and say, "I think I'll go run for that. I'm from New York or whatever. I think I'll run for governor." Rashawn's great. Now, he called for the National Guard. We disagree on that. because I think the problems are much more institutional and systematic. And that might be a Band-Aid, so the murder rate will go down for the weeks that they're there, but then they got to leave some point. And I just think that smacks of home rule and Baltimore, you know the people in Baltimore, working with people in Baltimore, we can solve this problem. We just need leadership to do it. And I'm prepared to do that. And I can't wait to work with the folks in Baltimore. And here's the thing. The answer to the question cannot be that's how we've always done it. But any other answer is on the table.
Yeah, I agree with that. And what would you say to folks that think that it's time for somebody new? And you were talking about some of the candidates that don't have experience. So what about the constituents that think we need somebody that's new, that hasn't been in government to get us to the next level?
Well, a couple things. First of all, you got to get elected first. So Tom Perez with the socialism stuff, I think that's going to hurt him, and Westmore with the vetting problems, and Francho being 75 years old and sort of ideologically untethered. I think it's going to hurt him. But I think experience matters because it means you can sort of work the levers of government. But B, let's say you just won the jackpot and you're going to go fly to Europe tomorrow. And someone like I've got 23 years of experience in government. And let's say you heard the pilot has been flying back and forth on that trip for 23 years, and there's going to be some turbulence on this trip. And then you hear you can either go with that pilot or you can go with somebody who's fresh and new and in their 40s and never lived in New York their whole life and just rolled into Baltimore and said, I think I'm going to run for governor. And I've read about how that works. I've read about how that plane can fly overseas. Would you get on that plane with that guy? And you don't have to answer, but I think you want the 23 years of experience. So I think experience matters. I think particularly on the crime issue, there's no one else in my race that has any experience in that. So I think people are gravitating toward that. And and like I said, I knock on doors every day. I did 3 hours today. What's been interesting is the sort of turn on this electability issue. Ever since the Supreme Court started stripping away rights and putting more guns on the street, people are like, okay, yeah, that's a nice commercial. Yeah, he did this and all that, and he had a paper route and he, whatever. I need somebody who's going to win and protect me and my rights. And so now they're looking at this race a little differently. And with 68% of folks undecided on who to vote for, I don't know who's going to win this. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm going to win. I think, I can't, and I think the state will be in great shape. And I really believe in my heart of hearts, I wouldn't be doing this, that I'd be the best governor and working with Candace Hollingsworth. And so that's why I'm out here doing it. And I believe in it. I want to help people and I'm excited about it. But so that's where we're at right now. And we'll find out. Actually, we won't find out Tuesday because they're not even counting the mail-in ballots till Thursday, and a lot of folk are actually doing the mail-in. Early voting is nobody's voting right now.
Yeah, it is. It really has been a low turnout, and folks are not. I don't know. Folks are not energized. They are not. They're not. And this is. I know it's a non-presidential election, but this is super important. I liked your analogy with the plane because our lives are literally on the line, and the election is super important.
Or as one of my boys said to me the other day, I like my NFL quarterbacks to at least play some high school ball.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
It's like, okay.
That's fair. So how can folks find out more about you, support your campaign, and the such?
Well, go online, DougGansler.com, and I appreciate this opportunity tremendously. But also, I vote. I mean, you got to vote. And people complain, and they're going to say, oh, wait, we got Tom Perez, Wes Moore, Peter Francho. Those guys can't win. And why do we have them? Well, because you didn't go vote, And that's what happens. People don't realize the importance of primaries, especially in the city where there's no other sort of, you got the state's attorney's race. You have that. But there's not much, which is getting some attention. But there's a lot of places where there's no sort of contested races. So people are like, my vote doesn't matter, but it sure does. It sure does matter. No, and Baltimore's on the ballot, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm hopeful that we can pull this through and that you and I can have this opportunity on a regular basis.
Yeah, that I would like that. I would like that. So yeah, I'm going to be voting on Tuesday. But I really encourage folks to get out and do it. It is very, very important. I mean, we can't complain about what happens, what we get if we do not participate in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell folks all the time, voting is part of it, but we also have to stay engaged after the vote, after the election. I'm sure that you're knocking on doors. You hear people say, "Oh, politicians only come around when they want our vote." But it's a two-part thing. Constituents have to be engaged, and then also that's how they can hold the elected officials accountable.
That's right. Yeah.
Orioles in the wild card.
They're 500. They're they're there. I mean, it's like they're what 16, 17, 18 out. You're like, wait, wild card, but they're there, and that'd be great. I mean, it
would be. I didn't see
the
season. I didn't think I didn't think we would even have a possibility.
Well, you can only rebuild so long.
Right.
At some point, you're built.
Right. Right.
We'll see, but it's nice. Look, it's a nice. Even if it's just a flash, it's kind of nice to see. Maybe people go back to the park and that'll be good.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate you taking some time to speak with me and my listeners. Best of luck to you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Take care. All right, have a blessed day.
Thanks. You as well.
Thanks.
All right, folks. We have had the opportunity to have a great conversation with candidate Doug Gansler. As I said, the primaries take place here in Maryland on Tuesday. And if you have not done your early voting, and maybe you're going to do it tomorrow, or you definitely got to do it Tuesday. And of course, we're going to be back here tomorrow. We have another interview with another candidate. John Barron is going to join us. And of course, on election night, Tuesday, 8 p.m., join us for the Election Day special. I'm going to be joined by several folks. Several folks, we're going to be talking about this race, the governor's race, and many, many others. We were joined today by Doug Gansler. If you want to find out more information about him and Candace Hollingsworth, visit DougGansler.com. So, the state's attorney's race, another race that folks in Baltimore are really looking at. And, it is something that is super impactful in Baltimore, the state's attorney. So I don't know. I don't know which way that goes. I have my thoughts, right? But of course we don't know, right? I have my thoughts. We've seen the matchup before. The matchup that we're seeing, we have seen this matchup before. Is it going to be a different outcome than the previous matchups that we've seen? I don't know. We do this, take a quick break. And we're going to come back with more of the show after this. This is the Don McKay Show on fire-tv.com.
On Fire TV is a streaming network for a generation on the move.
Welcome back. You made Don McKay in here, and we've been talking about elections and the such. Biden is, in the Middle East. I mean, Biden is somebody that is, I don't really, my thoughts on Biden have never changed. He was not my pick. He was not my pick. And as time goes on, the many factors that have caused folks to have questions about him, his age, obviously, his inability to be strong, right? He's a super moderate. Why did he win? Why did he become president? Because folks could not stand Donald Trump. And that's why. I think that any one of the candidates, I think one of the Democrats could have beaten Trump, because nobody wanted Trump anymore. And it's not that people thought that Joe Biden was going to be the best president. All right. They didn't think that. Nobody thought that. But we were tired of Trump. We were so tired of Donald Trump that we elected this longtime politician would run for president twice with no traction, no success. But this perfect storm of a pandemic and a terrible president, just someone making a mockery of this country. And they say, okay, fine. One Joe Biden, we'll give you Joe Biden. Goodness gracious, we'll give you Joe Biden. So the president today opened his first visit in the Middle East since taking office. He's been there before, but this is his first time as president there. By offering anxious Israeli leaders some strong, dialogue of his determination to stop Iran's growing nuclear program, saying that he'd be willing to use force as a last resort. So he's over there he's talking, right? He's talking. I don't know, does he mean what he's saying? But the president's comments came in an interview with Israel's Channel 12, taped before he left Washington and broadcast today, hours after the country's political leaders welcomed him with a red carpet arrival ceremony at the Tel Aviv airport. So he's over there, and Israeli leaders made clear as they marked Biden's arrival that Iran's nuclear program was the top item on their agenda. And of course, Joe Biden, go along, get along. He's going to go along with that. But the president later visited the memorial to Holocaust victims in Jerusalem. And now, so he's over there. He's going to be. I'm just waiting for the gaps. I'm just waiting for the normal Biden, screw ups. What this mic was on? Just talking crazy. Typical Joe Biden. This is our president, at least for right now. Is he going to run in 2024? I hope not. I mean, now it's like he can't say now he's not going to run, but everybody's hoping he doesn't. He doesn't even want to run. He doesn't want to campaign. But that's what he would have to do. Unfortunately, VP Harris is just not strong enough. If Joe Biden does not run, the Democratic field is going to be crazy. It's going to open up. We're going to have the Republican side open. They're going to be scrambling. Democrats going to be scrambling. We might have something interesting on our hands. All we need is just Joe Biden to say he ain't going to do it no more. He was going to do it, but he's when you look at him, come on now. Do you think that this guy can have a tough election season in 2 years? Not now, 2 years from now. 2 years from now. I don't know. I don't see it. Hopefully it does not happen. But it's up in the air. It's up in the air. You may Diamond K in here, of course, the Diamond K Show on fire-tv.com. For the past 16 years, the Baltimore Crown Awards has been connecting, developing, honoring, and promoting the Baltimore scene. Get your green clothes ready, formal, semi-formal, or however you feel fly, because the 2022 Baltimore Crown Awards is an emerald party. The nomination process is happening right now. This will determine the actual nominees for the show. They need your input. Visit thebaltimorescene.org, thebaltimorescene.org. Tickets on sale now for the 16th annual Baltimore Crown Awards, and it goes down Saturday, November the 19th at the Garage, 6 Lafayette Avenue in Baltimore, 21202, hosted by Desi Alexander. As I said, thebaltimorescene.org, or text 443-248-2596. It is the Baltimore Crown Awards. Had a lot of fun today. Some very, very interesting discussion about the election, the Maryland primary. We were joined today by attorney Doug Gansler. He's running for governor, and his running mate is former Mayor Candace Hollingsworth. So she's pro-black. She's pro-black. She's a pro-black agenda. And I'm looking forward to meeting her and talking with her. So, that is, let me get this on the screen. All right. So you want to find out more information about Doug Gansler and Candace Hollingsworth, you can visit DougGansler.com, DougGansler.com. All right. So we're going to take a quick break and, it's actually not going to be a quick break. We're going to come back at the top of the hour, with more of the program. And we're going to talk about the January 6th hearings and, Donald Trump's future. Does he have one? Are the feds gonna come knocking? The feds come knocking. That would be interesting. All right. At the Diamond K Show, of course, onfire-tv.com. djdiamondk@gmail.com if you want to get in touch with me. Also for the show, marketing at the diamondkshow.com. This Saturday, 6 p.m., I'm going to go into mix Baltimore club music. On Fire Mix show on our all mix weekends. Excited about that. I will see you guys at the top of the hour. We're going to talk about this January 6th debacle.